What's up everyone, welcome back to episode 5 Persona Overview. In this series we analyze the party members from Persona 3, 4, and 5 in terms of their affinities, stats, skills, and any unique mechanics they may have in order to determine how they should be built and utilized in the party. As per usual, our focus will be on the newest version of each game, those being Persona 3 Reload, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal, but we'll briefly go over the differences between the new and older versions for each party member. These videos will be gameplay focused, so there shouldn't be any major spoilers if we can avoid it, but as always, we recommend to watch your own discretion, especially for a late game party member like Akechi. If you haven't played a Persona game before, we highly recommend giving this series a try. This episode will be focused on Goro Akechi from Persona 5, who goes by the codename Crow in the metaverse. His initial persona is Robin Hood of the Justice Arcana. He awakens to his persona off-screen, but he's usable in battle for the first time at the beginning of the infiltration of the 6th Palace, the Casino of Envy. This introduction battle occurs on October 29th, and he starts at level 45 when he joins the party. This makes him one of the last party members to join, and he also has very inconsistent availability after he joins. He will only be available until November 19th, with his last battle being the 6th Palace boss fight, before he leaves the party. In the original Persona 5, he never rejoins the party after this, but at Royal, he can rejoin on January 2nd. However, this only happens if you unlock the 3rd semester by reaching rank 9 of Maruki's Confidant before the deadline on November 17th. Either way, he will always be unavailable during the period of time between November 19th and January 2nd. This includes the entirety of the 7th and 8th palaces, those being the Cruiser of Pride and the Prison of Regression respectively. As for Akechi's Confidant, it starts automatically on June 10th, long before he joins the party. If you're playing Royal, keep in mind that you need to reach rank 8 of his Confidant by November 17th, or the rest of his Confidant will be unavailable.
Taking a glance at Akechi's affinities, we see that his persona Robin Hood has a weakness to curse attacks and a 50% resistance to all blessed attacks. This is mildly strange since Robin Hood actually does get a couple of curse skills in his kit, but I digress. There are a decent amount of personas in the 6th Palace that are both weak to Bless and Curse, so his spells can be relatively useful for knockdowns, but at the same time he is also vulnerable to some of these personas as well. As for his showtimes, Akechi only gets one that isn't unlocked until much later into the game, foregoing an opportunity to get one in the 6th Palace. In the 3rd semester during a scripted mini-boss on January 2nd, both Akechi and Joker improvise a showtime which in my personal opinion is one of the coolest ones in the game, titled Bladed Runners. This showtime is available for the rest of the 3rd semester and can trigger even when Akechi is on the bench, since Joker will always be present in the party which will allow it to trigger regardless.
Taking a look at Akechi's stats, his HP and SP pools are pretty impressive. He has a base HP of 386 when he joins, which reaches 582 at max level. This is the second highest in the party, only behind Ryuji. As for his SP, it starts at 215 and reaches 323, which is once again the second highest, only behind Makoto. His strength starts at 32 and reaches 70, which is roughly around the middle of the party, only a bit below the more dedicated physical users. Moving on to his other attacking stat, his magic starts at 29 and reaches 61. This is also roughly around the middle of the party. An, Makoto, Morgana, and Haru all have higher magic. I have to say it's definitely a bit unfortunate for him to be only average in both attacking stats. He starts with 28 endurance and reaches a respectable 60, which once again around the middle of the party. It's the 4th highest, only barely behind Makoto, and definitely a lot higher than some of the other party members. This is starting to sound like a broken record, but his agility is also very average. It starts at 29 and reaches 62, which makes him have the 4th highest agility in the party. This puts him towards the middle of the turn order most of the time, which is okay for him since he has both supportive and offensive options. Taking the HP, endurance, and agility all into account, his survivability is pretty solid, though he doesn't really stand out as either a standard bulky tank or a dodge tank. He also has some other factors going against survivability. His second awakening persona doesn't gain additional resistance like the other party members' personas do, and it also isn't available during his time in the 6th Palace. This means he has to wait until 3rd semester to gain a null affinity and a passive skill that helps him evade his weakness, while his additional resistance does not arrive until his 3rd awakening. We'll explain that in more detail later, but the point is he can be a lot more frail in practice than his stats suggest. The final stat to look at is the worst stat, Luck. It starts at 24 and reaches 51, which is one of the lowest in the party, only above Yusuke and Makoto. Honestly, this isn't really a big deal. Luck affects your chances of landing an ailment on an enemy or being hit by an ailment yourself. Akechi doesn't learn any ailment skills, and the extra chance of him being hit by an ailment is compensated by a passive ability that he starts with. The worst thing about it is that it lowers his crit rate with some of his skills, though his main physical skill in the endgame is unable to crit, as we will discuss later. This means that having low luck isn't really as impactful on him as it would be on most other party members, but it does increase his chance of being critically hit himself, which is another unfortunate factor for survivability. Overall, Akechi has a decent stat spread, but it has its weaknesses. The main problem is that he is just average in most stats instead of being the highest in any of them, which makes it harder for him to stand out.
Akechi's persona trait is Tactical Spirit. This trait has a 60% chance to activate when a supportive skill is used by him as well as all allied party members. There are a lot of valuable support skills in this game that can come at a steep price of SP, so the fact that the rate of activation is quite high for a passive effect like this is really good, and honestly makes it one of the best persona traits in the game. Even if Akechi isn't the best user of it himself, there are plenty of other really expensive and strong supportive skills that are unlocked around the time he rejoins your party during the 3rd semester, so there's a decent chance the skill will see a fair amount of use if you leave him in your squad. Although it doesn't apply to offensive magic skills, which is what Ons did in the last Persona 5 episode, the rate of activation is much more generous and something you can rely a bit more on. While Akechi himself doesn't get a lot of support skills, aside from Debilitate, which is more feasibly attainable in the game's final palace, it's still a great personal skill to have and allows your team to be a lot more SP efficient in the late game. There really isn't a specific team comp you need to run for the skill to get value, since a large chunk of the party gets really strong 3rd Awakening skills that consume a lot of SP, making this Persona trait fit in with a fair amount of party members. The final palace in the 3rd semester is generally one of the longest ones in the game, if not the longest, so the longevity to SP is appreciated, and can make SP less of a concern in the final mini-boss and boss fights of this game.
Akechi's Confidant works quite a bit differently from the other party members, but I'll do my best to explain it. As I said before, rank 1 of his Confidant is unlocked automatically on June 10th. You can find him in Kichijoji at night to begin manually advancing his Confidant starting on June 13th. He is most often available on Wednesday and Saturday nights, though his availability fluctuates, and there will also be multiple points in his Confidant when progress is gained off based on your progression in the story. Unlocking rank 2 grants you the ability Sleuthing Instinct, which grants you a chance to reveal one of a single enemy's undiscovered affinities at the start of each battle. It's not reliable for it to activate or for it to actually reveal a useful affinity when it does activate, but it passively provides value for identifying enemy affinities, which is nice. As for rank 3, it requires both level 3 knowledge and level 3 charm to unlock it. The ability Smooth Talk is gated behind this rank, but it will not unlock it until Akechi joins the party. It gives him a chance to intervene when he fails Shadow Negotiation with a god like Shadow, allowing you to try again. Moving on to rank 4, this rank grants you the ability Sleuthing Mastery, which is an upgrade to Sleuthing Instinct. Now you'll have a chance to reveal all of the single enemy's affinities at the start of battle. The activation is still inconsistent, but now it is much more likely to provide value when it does activate, so it will reveal all affinities, including whatever weakness they may have. Perhaps more importantly, rank 4 of Akechi's Confidant is required for you to visit the Jazz Club, one of the most useful new features in Royal. As for rank 5, it doesn't grant any abilities and there's nothing really special about it. Rank 6, on the other hand, is a bit of a special rank. Akechi will show up at the cafe instead of his typical spot in Kichijoji, and this event is only available from September 3rd onwards. When Akechi joins the party, this rank will also grant access to the ability Follow Up. It gives him a chance to perform a follow-up attack that can down an enemy whenever Joker fails to down an enemy on his turn. Moving on to rank 7, it cannot be unlocked until November 2nd, and also requires at least level 4 knowledge. This gives him the ability Harasem Recovery, which grants a chance for him to cure an ally's ailment at the start of his turn without using his turn. Rank 8 is the last time you can advance his Confidant by spending time with him. As for ranks 9 and 10, these ranks will be unlocked automatically during the 7th Palace Filtration if you made it to rank 8 before the November 17th deadline. Unlike the other party members, he does not learn Endure and Protect at ranks 8 and 9. Instead, they are locked behind rank 10 and therefore only available to use during the 3rd semester. The ability Endure gives him a chance to survive a fatal attack at 1 HP, and Protect gives him a chance to jump in front of Joker and take the damage himself when Joker is about to be hit by a lethal attack. Rank 10 does not grant him a second awakening like the other party members get. However, he will get his equivalent of a second awakening persona, regardless of your Confidant progress during the 3rd semester, and rank 10 will be required for his 3rd awakening.
Akechi is a bit of a unique case when it comes to acquiring his different personas, at least compared to the rest of the party, which all follow a similar route. While he will have Robin Hood for the entire brief period of time he joins your party in the 6th Palace, Akechi will automatically have Loki when he does rejoin the party for the 3rd semester. This sort of fills the slot for Akechi's second awakening, but there are some mild differences. Compared to Robin Hood, Loki's attributes are swapped with a weakness to Bless this time, but instead of a resistance, Loki outright nulls Curse. However, he doesn't have any extra resistances like other party members gain upon unlocking their second persona. When Loki is unlocked, his moveset changes to a set of 8 skills that we will talk about shortly. As for his final awakening, he unlocks Here Ward, which functions a bit more like a 3rd awakening, but it does have some specific requirements. First, you need to have reached level 8 of his social link by a deadline of November 17th. The last 2 ranks of the link will be automatically unlocked assuming you choose specific dialogue options during rank 7 and rank 8. During rank 7, when you ask Joker what you think of him, you have to say that he is your rival, and then during rank 8, you must accept his challenge when he throws you his glove. If you manage to do this, then the rest of the link will be automatically progressed later down the line. Unfortunately, unlike the other 3rd awakenings, you don't have to hang out with Akechi to get his 3rd awakening, as it happens automatically on February 2nd after rejecting the 3rd semester antagonist offer. Here Ward gains an additional resistance, that being Psychic, as well as unlocking the skill Rebellion Blade. It deals colossal almighty damage to one foe and doubles its multiplier against downed enemies from 1.25 times to 2.5 times, but with a massive SP cost of 99 SP. This is somewhat negated by the fact that Here Ward's persona trait is upgraded from Tactical Spirit to Ingenious Spirit, which not only reduces the SP cost of support skills like before, but also now almighty skills as well.
Akechi does not have a long list of offensive skills since he joined so late, but he gets a wide variety of different elements, more so than any party member besides Joker. He already starts with 6 offensive skills innately when he joins. His strongest one is Megaton Raid, a skill that deals severe physical damage to one enemy with 85% accuracy and a 25% crit rate, at the cost of 16% of his max HP. This makes Akechi a bit ahead of the curve in terms of physical damage, since Ryuji doesn't learn Megaton Raid until level 53. On the magic side, he starts with both Koga and Eiga, which deal medium blessed and curse damage to a single enemy respectively, at the cost of 8 SP. He also gets the insta-kill skills Hamon and Mudoon, which have a higher cost of 12 SP, but have a 50% chance to insta-kill enemies instead of dealing traditional damage. The chance of the insta-kill working scales based on the enemy's affinities. For example, Hamon would have a higher chance against enemies that are weak to Bless, but a lower chance against enemies that resist Bless, and it wouldn't work at all against enemies that null Bless. Insta-kills also will not work in special encounters like bosses. The last offensive skill he starts with is Megidola, a magic skill that costs 24 SP and damages all enemies. It deals almighty damage, which means no enemy can resist or block his damage, and even bypasses the magic barrier Makarakarn. At levels 47 and 48, very soon after he joins, he will learn Koga-on and Eiga-on, which are upgrades to Koga and Eiga. They have a bit higher SP cost of 12, but make up for it with a solid increase to base power, now dealing heavy damage. The rest of his offensive skills are honestly pretty unlikely to reach without excessive grinding, but I'll mention them anyways. At levels 59 and 62, he gets Mahama-on and Mamudo-on respectively, which are AoE versions of the previously mentioned insta-kill skills. Since they target all enemies, this makes them very efficient for dealing with regular shadow encounters if you're able to unlock them. The last offensive skill he learns is Megidola-on, an upgrade to Megidola that now deals severe almighty damage to all foes. However, it's actually only around an 8% increase in base power for Megidola, and the SP cost goes up to 38, which is unfortunate. If you unlock the 3rd semester, Akechi will be given a fixed set of 8 skills when he rejoins, and will be unable to relearn any of the skills he loses at the church. This includes all of his blessed magic and his insta-kill skills. He comes with only 4 offensive skills when he rejoins. 2 of them are magic skills, Eiga-on and Megidola-on, which I previously mentioned. He also gets Riot Gun, which costs 24% of his max HP and deals severe gun damage to all foes, with 80% accuracy and a 10% crit rate. Finally, he has signature physical skill, Levitain, which deals colossal physical damage to one foe with an HP cost of 25%. It has very high base power, equal to God's Hand, and a remarkably high accuracy of 98%, but for some reason it is completely unable to crit, which is extremely strange and unfortunate. However, aside from the inability to crit, it is a very strong and reliable attack. Akechi won't learn any more skills by level up after rejoining the party, though he does get Rebellion Blade from his 3rd awakening, as Jeff mentioned.
There is very little to talk about in terms of Akechi's support and passive skills, in all honesty. When he first joins with Robin Hood, he'll only have one innate to his kit, which is Fortify Spirit, which decreases the chance of Akechi getting inflicted by an ailment by 25%. At level 50, he unlocks Attack Master, which if you don't have Auto Mataru on one of Joker's personas, it is really important passive to keep on him. It gives Akechi Auto Terrakaja at the start of battle, which increases attack by 30% for 3 turns, greatly increasing his damage output. At level 54, he gets Sama Recarm, which for 18 SP revives an ally to full HP. Lastly, he gets Debilitate at level 70, which lowers attack, defense, and evasion of a single enemy for 3 turns. This is one of the best debuffing skills in the game, but it's unlikely that you will reach level 70 on Akechi by the time he leaves your party. As I alluded to earlier, Loki and Hereward have their moveset pretty much set in stone once Akechi comes back, with 8 innate skills that don't get replaced via level up. 3 of those skills are the exact same that Robin Hood had or could have acquired via level up, those being Fortify Spirit, Attack Master, and Debilitate, which function all the same. He gets 1 extra passive skill, that being Evade Bless, which boosts Akechi's evasion rate against Bless skills significantly, which is really nice since that is his new weakness.
Since Akechi's skill set is different between Robin Hood and Loki, I'll give different skill recommendations for both of them. I'll start by saying that I'm not going to recommend Attack Master on either of these builds because I always get a persona with Automataru and Joker, rendering it useless. However, if you don't have Automataru, I would always keep Attack Master on your build for both of them because it's an excellent buff to damage output. With that being said, let's take a look at Robin Hood's skills. For his offensive skills, Megaton Raid has to stay since it's his highest base power skill. I think Megidola-on has to stay as well since it's his only real AoE damage option and not counting insta-kills. Koga-on and Eiga-on are great for striking out weaknesses and has damage options against enemies that resist or block physical. I like to keep Mahama-on and Mamudo-on for clearing out regular encounters. The single target versions are not nearly as useful in my experience. Debilitate is one of the best support skills in the game in our opinion, and absolutely earns a spot on the build if you're able to unlock it. For the last slot, I like to hold on to Fortify Spirit for the passive ailment resistance, which is nice for survivability. I don't personally use Sama Recarm because items that revive allies to full HP are very plentiful and cheap in this game, but that depends on your playstyle. Keep in mind this is more of a theoretical maxed out Robin Hood build, since you are very unlikely to unlock several of these skills before Akechi leaves without excessive grinding. The last thing I will say about Robin Hood Akechi is that I don't advise teaching him any skills from the Jazz Club, because they will not transfer over to Loki. It is possible to remember them at the church, but it requires you to take Loki Akechi to learn a skill from the Jazz Club to forget a skill in order to unlock the confessional for him, so it's not going to be worth the effort for most players. As for Loki and Hereward, Akechi starts with a full set of 8 skills in the 3rd semester, and doesn't learn anything except for Rebellion Blade from his 3rd awakening, so there's very little to discuss in terms of skill recommendations. I usually replace Attack Master with Rebellion Blade once I unlock it, once again due to it being rendered useless by Automataru. There are 3 passive skills he can potentially learn from the Jazz Club, assuming you choose to take him there instead of another party member. The first is Ollie Dance on January 15th, which has the accuracy of all incoming attacks. This offers lower effective evasion against Bless specifically than Evade Bless, and it does not stack. If you have both and are targeted by a Bless attack, the Evade Bless boost will activate and Ollie Dance will be overridden. That being said, though they technically work together, I think it's a bit inefficient to have both of them, and I would probably replace Evade Bless with Ollie Dance if you do get the skill on Akechi. He can also get Arms Master on January 22nd, and Spell Master on January 29th, which cut the HP and SP cost of skills respectively in half. Arms Master is great for Levitate and Riot Gun, while Spell Master is great for Debilitate, Aegon, Megidolon, and especially Rebellion Blade. I don't really think Akechi is the best candidate for any of these skills, so they're not going to be a part of my recommended final build, but he's not a bad choice for any of them. If it fits your playstyle, you could absolutely justify teaching him at least one of those. The final build I usually go with on Hereward is Rebellion Blade, Levitain, Riot Gun, Aegon, Megidolon, Debilitate, Evade Bless, and Fortify Spirit.
As for gear recommendations, there are a few options Akechi can use. Starting off with his ultimate gear, his best melee weapon, Hino Kagutsuchi 2, can be acquired by itemizing Futsunushi during a fusion alarm which has the best attack stat of 360, an accuracy of 90, and a high chance to inflict burn when using a regular attack. Most of his other weapons can be found in the 6 Palace treasure chests or are sold in Untouchable. The most notable of these being Victory Beam 2, which comes at a special prize desk mechanic exclusive to the 6 Palace, where it can be bought for 1200 coins. While its stats are worse, it does grant plus 10 luck, which is somewhat notable. There aren't too many options for his ranged weapons, but his best is easily Ancient Day, which can be acquired by itemizing Vahu Mana in a fusion alarm. This weapon has an attack of 350, an accuracy of 85, and grants Akechi a plus 6 to all of his stats, which is really nice. As for protectors and accessories, he's pretty standard amongst most party members, and there isn't anything too specific that he would need. The Tantric Oath R or Seer's Armor EX are easily the best for survivability, providing a high damage reduction to magic attacks, as well as having some of the best defense, 330 and 350, and solid evasion, 10 and 18. If you want to focus on Rebellion Blade damage, however, then I do think that Death's Black Tights are also a good option. They have 345 defense and 15 evasion, but also increase the wearer's magic stat by 8, which is very significant. His best accessories are pretty variable and depend on how you want to utilize Akechi. On strength-focused setups, the Demonica device that grants gun amp can significantly improve Riot Gun's damage, or the Gigantomachia belt can be used to give Akechi an AoE physical skill, as well as a physical skill that can actually land a crit. For other physical-focused accessories, the Bravery Sash is good as it gives Arms Master a skill that halves the HP cost of physical skills. However, it's required that you do the Foggy Day challenge battle and score 2.5 million points to acquire this accessory. The Ring of Pride is also another solid option, as it grants Akechi the coveted support skill Charge, a skill that boosts the user's next physical attack by 250%. On the opposite side of the spectrum for magic builds, you could get the Ring of Greed for Concentrate, which gives the same 250% boost but for magic attacks. The Magic Misa Naga can be obtained from the Full Moon Challenge battle if you score 360,000 points, giving you Spell Master, which halves the SP cost of magic and support skills. The Shiny Belt R is also a solid alternative, providing plus 3 to all stats as well as Invigorate 3. The best accessories overall are probably the Crystal Skull R, which grants plus 6 to all stats and Angelic Grace, or the Orichalcum R, which gives Evade Physical and all stats plus 7.
Akechi's strengths differ slightly between his performance in the 6th Palace and his performance during the 3rd semester, so I'll discuss them separately. Starting with Robin Hood, Akechi's physical damage stands out immediately once you unlock him. As I mentioned before, he starts with Megaton Raid when he joins level 45, which Ryuji doesn't get until level 53. Combined with a solid strength stat, the skill does a lot of damage, and at only level 50 he gets Attack Master, which will make his damage stand out even more. Akechi is generally quite good in the 6th Palace in general. Many of the enemies in this palace are weak to either Bless or Curse, which lets him get a ton of easy knockdowns and insta-kills. As I alluded to before, his elemental coverage is unmatched among the party, with the obvious exception of Joker. Robin Hood has access to physical, bless, curse, and almighty skills, while other party members only get 1 or 2 elements. Both his magic and physical skills provide a lot of value to shadow encounters, which makes him very versatile. As for the 3rd semester, Akechi's main strength is his 3rd awakening skill, Rebellion Blade. The skill often gets underrated for a few totally valid reasons. It isn't unlocked until near the very end of the game, and the down multiplier is useless against the final boss. It costs a lot of SP and scales off Akechi's magic stat, which isn't the highest. However, I think people underestimate just how strong the base power of the skill is, even without the down multiplier. It's incredibly high, especially for a magic skill. If you pair it with Concentrate from Star Onions or On's high energy skill, you will hit crazy damage numbers, and because it's almighty, it works against any enemy. If you want to be really optimal, you can spend time in the Jazz Club with Akechi on Thursday and Friday nights to increase his magic stats so it hits even harder. It may not be available for very long, but he genuinely has one of the highest damage ceilings in the party when using the skill. There are also some strains shared between both versions of Akechi. He is the only party member with access to Debilitate, not counting Joker, though to be fair, other party members can potentially learn it from the Jazz Club and Royal. Still, getting it natively is really good because Debilitate is one of the best support skills in the game. Once again, excluding Joker, he's the only party member with access to Almighty damage, which can situationally be very useful against enemies that have a lot of resistances or set up barriers. Finally, his Persona trait makes a big difference on the SP economy for support skills, especially for some of the Third Awakening skills that have very high SP costs. I'll go into more detail on those later, but it can be very clutch when it activates on any of those skills. The upgraded trait applying the SP cost reduction to Almighty skill is also helpful for Akechi himself, due to the high cost of Rebellion Blade. Overall, I honestly think his trait is one of the best in the party.
Akechi is a solid party member, but he does have a fair amount of weaknesses to discuss. Akechi himself definitely slots into a jack-of-all-trades archetype, which is fine, but it means he generally doesn't do anything exceptionally better than a fair amount of party members who are more specialized. This also reflects in his stats, which are relatively balanced. His strength is somewhat high, while his magic is only decent. His endurance is in a similar situation to his magic stat, but his agility is slightly above average, which is nice. His worst stat is easily his luck, but honestly that's not too big of a deal since Lavatane can't even crit. Speaking of, that is generally one of his biggest weaknesses, specifically in the third semester of course. Lavatane is certainly a solid physical skill, but the no crit drawback definitely limits its potential, and honestly even if it could crit, it wouldn't be exceptionally broken or anything. His other skills also aren't the most impressive either. Riot Gun usually lacks damage considering he doesn't acquire any ways to increase gun damage naturally like Gun Amp or Gun Boost. Even one of his strongest magic attacks in Megidolon is pretty weak, and most of the Bless and Curse skills have fallen off by the time you get to use him, especially since he doesn't get anything to increase their damage output either. He also doesn't innately get Charge or Concentrate, which would have been a huge boon for his viability if he got either. Attack Master is fine and probably why Akechi lacks a fair amount of resources, but it's not very unique when Automataru or Matsurukaja are easy enough to acquire and use. Additionally, Akechi's availability is some of the worst in the entire game. He joins really late, not coming on board until the 6th palace, where he only stays on board for that specific palace before skipping 2 entire palaces, and then he eventually potentially rejoins if you have Royal. Even then, he doesn't have the easiest time in that palace, as a fair amount of enemies use Bless to attack, most significantly the final boss himself, which makes Akechi a bit of a liability if you bring him to that fight. Lastly, while Rebellion Blade is quite strong, you can't acquire it until the very end of the game, where it's basically only usable on the last boss or challenge battles.
In our opinion, the best party member to pair with Akechi is On due to the exceptional synergy between their Persona traits and Third Awakening skills. On's high energy dramatically buffs the damage output of Akechi's Rebellion Blade, which is greatly appreciated. Her trait has a chance to reduce the SP cost of Rebellion Blade and his other magic damaging skills whenever he uses them too. Meanwhile, every time she uses high energy, Akechi's trait has a chance to reduce the SP cost, so they end up providing a ton of passive benefits to each other just by both being in the party. The best party member to round out the comp would be another strong magic attacker like Makoto or Haru. These two also really benefit from Akechi's trait because of their Third Awakening skills, Checkmate and Lightfall respectively, which require a lot of SP. While we think his physical damage ceiling scales a bit lower than his magic damage ceiling, Rebellion Blade isn't available until very late, so focusing on Levitate during the palace can be totally valid. When doing this, the best party member to pair with Akechi is Ryuji. He is the best enabler of physical attackers in this game because of his trait, which has a chance of buffing the party's physical damage, and his Third Awakening skill Fighting Spirit, which provides the charge effect to the whole party. Just like with On, this combo is mutually beneficial because Akechi's trait can reduce the SP cost of Fighting Spirit. The best choices to complete the party would be a strong physical attacker like Yusuke or Haru. Yusuke can really benefit from Akechi's trait when using his Third Awakening skill, Hyakuryoran. As for Haru, in this comp she would focus primarily on her gun damage rather than Sai, which does benefit from Fighting Spirit, though not from Ryuji's trait. You may notice the only party members I didn't mention were Morgana and Sumi. They are not necessarily bad pairings and can slot well into the magic or physical comps respectively. However, I just don't think they're particularly synergistic with Akechi's traits since they don't have any high SP cost support skills like the other party members do. In most cases, I think they would realistically be competing for Akechi's slot in those comps rather than being used alongside him, at least for the sake of optimal play. Sumi is also an unfortunate case because one of her main unique aspects is Brave Step, which increases the critical hit rate of all allies. However, Akechi can't crit with Levitate, which makes him the worst physical party member to pair with her.
As for game differences, Akechi is probably the most changed party member of the bunch. Starting with general changes, he unfortunately does not have Tactical or Ingenious Spirit due to the fact that Persona traits do not exist in the original Persona 5. Royal mechanics such as the Baton Pass rank, Technical rank, his Showtime with Joker, as well as the Jazz Club which he specifically shows you in Royal are not present in the first rendition of the game. However, the most crucial and main difference present between the games is that after the 6th Palace, Akechi is gone for good and never returns since the 3rd semester's Royal exclusive content. Loki and Hero Ward are never usable, and by extension their signature abilities Levitate and Rebellion Blade aren't either. The rest of the skills on Robin Hood are more or less the same, so his skill set aside from those 2 specific attacks doesn't change that much though. Due to this fact, his selection of melee and ranged weapons is much more limited, and the ones that we specifically mentioned aside from the Victory Beam don't even exist. The last main difference is that Akechi's Confidant is reworked entirely in Royal, and was fully automatic in the original. You couldn't go out of your way to spend time with him, and it was basically just another Confidant that progressed as the story did, similar to one such as Sai Nijima.
That's about all we have to say about Akechi. If you enjoyed the video or have any thoughts of your own, please leave a like and make sure to comment. I also recommend checking the description if you're not already subscribed to both of our channels. Stay tuned for the next episode of Persona Overview next week on Jeff's channel, where we'll be moving on to the next party member, Haru Okumura, also from Persona 5. Thanks for watching.
What I was waiting for!
They're done for!
Learned your lesson?